started now. Thank you for joining us for what likely may not be a full 90 minutes, but we wanted to make sure to give it plenty of time for any questions that folks have. But again, thanks for joining us. This is Kelly Bohannon. I'm the ECEAP administrator. I'm joined by pretty much the entire ECEAP team, either here in the state office or joining from their outside location across the state. And I'll also have a couple of DELF and ECEAP staff that will have pieces and parts of the webinar as we work through some of the changes and information that's included. So I'll introduce them as we get to each of them. But with that, I think we'll go ahead and get started. So if you want to go to the next slide. So this is just a quick overview of what we want to cover today, in addition to saying hello to all of you, and hope that everybody is, if you're an extended day, having a great kickoff to a new year, and if you're in full school day or part day, getting ready to ramp up and start things here shortly in serving kids and families. So welcome, and today we're going to walk through a couple things, and the first thing we want to address is that we recognize that the contracting process this year has been a little less than smooth than what you typically expect, and so just want to address that with you and let you know some things that we're putting into place to prevent that in the future. And then, of course, the focus of today is really to go over the contract changes. So we want to, use this as an opportunity for you to ask, direct questions to us about things that are in your contract that have changed for this 17-18 school year, and then maybe any other changes, questions that you have about the contract. And then, of course, at the end, we've made time for some questions. Go ahead and go to the next, please. So I think just wanting to touch base with all of you on the contracting process that started on July 1st for the 17-18 year. Just want to recognize again, that we're really excited, although it was a really long legislative session that got us got a budget in place in the very last hours of the fiscal year 17, that, we came out with some really exciting opportunities with a slot rate increase in addition to an 1,800 slot expansion that this year we started by rolling out 800 new slots, and that RFA for the remaining 1,000 will be coming out soon. So just really, really excited about that. And what comes along with that is, and this is nothing anybody will be surprised about, but when we get pushed in a long legislative session to the, right down to the wire and we're waiting for a budget, it poses a lot of challenges and issues in our fiscal department in particular, which includes our budget folks, our fiscal folks, and everybody who's trying to take it all in addition to all of us in the program ourselves trying to figure out how we're going to, manage and operate things. And so it's madness, frankly, for all of us. And as much as we pride ourselves in the way that we've always, worked so well together and always do, we just struggled with this one. And we just want to be really transparent about that, where we, haven't been able to talk to you already. We've had several phone conversations and email conversations with many of you, but just want to take responsibility for what did take place, which really, the madness season resulted in a lot of inaccuracies in the budgets that you received, in the slot, lots of questions and confusion about the slot rate increase. And we're going to talk about that here in just a minute. So hopefully that becomes, if it's not already, increasingly clear for you. But I think, this is just what we can tell you about it is that we've had a lot of new staff coming in various places of the system, both in our team here in ECEAP as well as in our budget and contracts office. And again, as much as we work really well together, it was just one of those moments in time where, because of the madness, we just really had some things that fell through, and pretty big, pretty significantly. And so I think what we want to do here today, what I want to do here with you today, is to say, one, how much we apologize for that, because we recognize the impact that it has on you as organizations and your relationships with your subcontractors, with your partners, the fiscal stress that it has on everyone. And So we just want to recognize that and apologize for that and let you know that we are doing everything that we possibly can to put the right kind of controls in place to make sure this doesn't happen again. So I just want to assure you of that, that we're working diligently right now as we get things cleared and moving forward well, this is a top priority for us, and that it means a lot to us. The other thing I want to say is that for those of you that I had the opportunity, and many pre-K specialists and other ECEAP staff had the chance to have conversations with some of you about some of the really stressful situations you are in with your contracts, that we really appreciate that. And the time that you took, the other staff you pulled in for those conversations, and that we just, again, we really value you sticking in there with us, your partnership in this, and just hope that you, you know, where you've lost confidence in us, that your confidence grows as you see us really remedy this one. So that's all I have to say about that, but just wanted to acknowledge it and also let you know a little bit, give you a little bit of insight on what happened, which really was a breakdown of some of our systems and processes. Do we have any questions yet, or any? I just want to be watching for that as we go. We good so far? Nothing in the comments. So again, people, feel free to add things into the comment box and let us know if you have a question, and we can go from there. So this next thing we're going to move to, go ahead and go to the next slide, is that we really wanted to, and this is going to go in reminders and links, which should come out this Friday, the 1st. And I just want to, here in just a minute, Lindsay Lasher, who is our ECEAP budget analyst and a great partner for our team in this work, she and I are kind of going to share elements of this, this piece of the presentation where we really just want you to have a very clear picture for how the slot rates are actually created, how we determine them. And so this provides a visual for that. And so you can see, I'll start in just a minute by talking through the part day. I'll talk a little bit about the full day and then the extended day. And, you know, definitely leave it open for questions where you might have it. So the first thing to say is that in starting with part day, which is really the one that we did have some calculation issues, some issues with in the beginning, but clearly this is the easiest one, is that it's pretty much just a base rate. So we got a 5.6% increase. And again, the reason for the 5.6% only instead of a 6% is because of the $1.2 million reduction that ECEAP took in addition to this increase. So the part day rate is the rate that took the hit from that $1.2 million reduction. And so it's only a 5.6% increase, which brought our 73.31 rate of last year up to 77.41. And so that's the part day rate. And so then the question then becomes, which is where it gets a little bit more complex, then how is it that you establish the full school day and the extended day rate? So we'll start with the full school day rate. And essentially for both extended day and full school day rates, the base rate serves as their foundation. So the part day base rate of 77.41 is at the base for both of those rates, and then for the full school day, which is our, as you all know, 6-hour rate. The other part of that rate is a regional rate for Working Connections childcare. And so that's how that is established. And that's where when people were confused about not seeing what seemed to be a full 6% reduction, 6% increase, the reason for that is because the part day rate only being 5.6% and being the foundation of your rate, it essentially doesn't get you a full 6% because it impacts that. And so it's the same for the extended day rate. So there isn't really another way to explain that extended day rate other than to say, for the purpose of this visual, the other thing that full school day and extended day programs are getting as a part of your slot rate is you're also getting your tiered reimbursement dollars attached to that, where you have tiered reimbursement. And so for the purpose of this visual, the average across the state of our tiered reimbursement rate is factored in to this. And so again, Lindsay's here so she can answer questions that folks have about that, but that's essentially what ends up creating the rates that you see here, this is what I also want to say. When I sent an email out probably the second week of July, and then I was also with Nicole Rose and I were at the Director's Retreat for WASA in Leavenworth. So for those of you that participated in that and are part of WASA, you would have heard this there too. At that time, Nicole and I actually didn't fully understand how this was calculated because it was so new. Things were moving so fast. All we knew was that there was a 5.6% rate for part day, and our assumption and our understanding at that time was that full school day and extended day were a full 6%, not thinking that this is how this was going to be, calculated. So I want to be really transparent with you about that, that we did not know that at that time. And it took sort of working through some of the confusion and many conversations and errors along the way to figure that out together. And that's where we're at now. That's why we're putting this out there for you to chew on, for you to think about, and certainly ask any questions that you have. So I'm going to stop there because that was a lot, and see if there's any questions, and then we can go from there. And if they're not, also want to see if Lindsay, do you have anything to add?
I don't have anything to add at this moment.
Okay. No, not so far. So again, we're going to be putting this visual out in reminders and links, and so it will be kind of a one-pager. We'll have a link to it that'll link to our website and our webpage. And so what will happen is that you will see this exact visual on the first side, and on the back side of the paper, we'll have basically a narrative that describes this, and that describes this just how I just described it to you. So feel free to, and please do, share it with your fiscal folks and other people who have been working on these issues with you along the way. And again, our apologies from the beginning for not being straightforward about this. Again, it was one of those moments in legislative, I would say, madness, where we're, putting a lot of things together all at once, and just learned a big lesson in terms of how we want to communicate stuff like this in the future. So if there are no questions, I think we're going to move ahead. And Justin wants to make a couple of comments on some things that are more considerations for you in your contract around budget that tend to come up often. So Justin Chan, who is our contracts coordinator, if you want to go ahead and take it from here, and Justin's also going to take us into the next couple of slides as well.
Yeah, this is Justin. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So it's good to be back. I am currently the program coordinator and was the interim equity and professional development administrator. So I just want to go over just other budget potential changes. So for example, if you did move your slots around, you will get some differences in terms of based on regional as well as early achievers ratings. And then if your class start date is different than what you've had typically, then again you'll see a difference in terms of per month funding. So that's just some additional budget changes that you might see within your budget. And that's a quick highlight. Any questions about that? Any questions from anybody?
I think one thing I just want to add on to that is that for us, what we just want to make sure of, and this is more of a reminder for you and any other staff who are making these adjustments in terms of changing your class start dates or your slot allocations and where things are located, we really just want to make sure that you know that how important it is for you to communicate that to us as soon as you can, and that there's time involved in us making those adjustments. And how important that is, and how much it can fluctuate. What you see in your rates and can really fluctuate. And so it's more of a reminder than anything, because I think it's an easy on your end to sort of make these changes. Certainly, and we want you to. And we just also want you to be aware of what it means on our end, to just be really out front as much as you can, and expect a little bit of time in there for us to make those adjustments.
Great. So the next slide. So this is an overall sort of summary of some of the changes that happened. to your ECEAP contract, specifically the statement of work as well as the general terms and conditions. So you see the first section we have is the portable background check section, and we added the language, this includes transportation, other services during ECEAP hours, to be more intentional about that. The next section is, and this is typically in your section 7 statement of work, and then we have the curriculum implementation, and we added language.
Can I interrupt for just a sec? I'm really sorry, but I don't want to go past PBCs yet. So,
yeah.
Really small change in the PBCs, including making, as Justin said, including the transportation element in there. But the other thing I want to say for many of you who I know you've been, many of you have been nudging your pre-K specialists who are involved, those of you involved with school districts or ESDs, about this new bill that between OSPI and DEL around fingerprints. And as you all know, you had what we called a waiver to the PBC this last year. So I just wanted to let you know that we are waiting approval from Dell leadership regarding what we're going to call this year an exception to this standard for school districts and ESDs. The bill that was passed is much more complex, and what I will say, we've got a ways to go before it could actually ever be implemented. Just there's a lot of technicalities involved, as you might imagine, with rules and laws like this. And so we are looking to grant what we will call an exception. It's the same thing as a waiver. We're just using different language. And hopefully we'll have more to come by the end of this week. Hopefully we will have it in reminders and links. But we are looking at, right now, what's on the table is an exception for anyone who's not in the classroom. So bus drivers, itinerant staff, anyone who's not in the classroom on a regular basis, we are proposing that they have an exception for the full year to the portable background check. For lead teachers and anyone else, including family support workers who are in the classroom regularly, we are proposing an exception until January 1st. So what we're asking for with that is that the portable background check part of the fingerprint process, so we're assuming that you're all taking care of fingerprints already for people you're hiring to be with kids in classrooms, in school districts and ESD settings, and perhaps not right now many of them have not had the portable background check, which is a $12 character and suitability check. We're looking to grant an exception until January for classroom staff for that piece of the requirement. So to get the $12 portable background check through Dell. So that's what we're hoping to put through and communicate out to you very soon. And so again, that would give you, for your classroom teachers and anyone in the classroom with children on a regular basis, it would give you until January to get that done. And there is a question. And can someone read it?
So it says, we have a question. In the past, with full school day slots, we had to have families complete a form indicating whether or not they are accessing WCCC subsidy. Will this be the same case again this year?
That's going to have to be, unless there's somebody in the room that can answer it here, that's going to have to be something that we get back to you on, Jackie.
No, we haven't done that for several years. No, that was when we really were using it. So Jackie, that's not required at this time. We were using actual working connections dollars during the time we were using that form, and now we're calling it. It's an equivalency of working connections dollars, but it's regular state ECEAP dollars that we're using right now. No need to do that paperwork.
Got it. Thanks, Joy. Okay. Any other questions?
Okay.
Thanks, Justin. Sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah, no problem. So that section, the curriculum implementation, section 9 of the statement of work, we added that the contractor must use a Dell-approved comprehensive research-based curricula, and the Dell-approved curricula are creative curriculum and high scope. And then we added that the contractor, if they wish to use an alternative research-based curriculum, they must complete Dell's alternative curriculum approval form, which I think should be online. I'm not sure yet, but double check. And then the next section is family support, section 15 of the statement of work. We added I think we added some information. Let's see here. What was the thing we added here? Actually, I don't. Give me 1 second for that. Well, I'll get back to that one because I don't have it right now on me. So for the Section 18 data share, we just added that Dell will provide the contract with contact information for families receiving services from the Department of Social and Health Services. And that was really part of that data share agreement that you probably know about from the previous few contracts. And so we integrated that into your ECEAP contract. And then I'm not sure if Peggy is on the line or in the room, but if she wants to share about the next section, Section 20, expedited licensing, to give you more information about that. Peggy, are you there?
I just have to unmute her. Just 1 second.
We're unmuting you, Peggy.
Okay, go ahead, Peggy.
All right, so I'm going to talk about specifically 20.2 of the Statement of Work, which is about expedited licensing. And as you know, in the past, the full school day sites have had the option of participating in what we've called the expedited licensing process, which was kind of our bridge between the first full school day sites and ECEAP becoming fully licensed. So now we're going to be transitioning to our aligned standards, and all sites operating over 4 hours a day this year need to go through that full licensing process. So they're going to be going through the regular licensing process, just like any other licensed site. So right now we're preparing some informational letters that are going to go out to the ECEAP contractors and to licensors that will introduce them to the process that will be used, and we're working currently with our contractors on orientations and those pieces of licensing. Sites that are currently on an expedited license will be transitioned to the regular licensing process. So they'll start participating and be transitioned to the local licensing office and have an assigned licensor. So if you're wanting copies of the forms that the licensors use when they come to the site, they're available on the licensing tab of the Dell website, and that is where you will also find the current licensing WAC. So if you want to start reading up on those are out there for you to be able to start looking through.
Great, thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Hi.
Any questions so far?
Yes, we actually do have a couple questions. So the first one is from Mary McDonald, and it says, can we begin to have staff working in school districts start to get the $12 piece, or should we hold off for written directions? Do the fingerprints done by OSPI need to be recent by a specific date?
So that's a great question. So you can definitely have them do it anytime. I would start having them do it, particularly for those that are going to be in classrooms, because so we're awaiting approval this week. But what I would say is either way. So if we don't get approval, we're going to have to we'll be putting a date out that everybody's going to have to get it. So it's either going to be that everybody's going to have to do it by a certain timeline, or we're going to be able to grant these exceptions to the rule or to the law. And so I would just say, for sure, start having people do it now. Get out ahead of it, even though you're going to have, for classroom staff, our proposed date right now is January. So likely January 1. So sure. I think that's a great thing. And the other thing about this, just to give you a little context behind the decision, is that as we go in, as our alignment process becomes more formal and we move into an aligned set of early learning standards for the department this next school year, it's going to be required. And so we thought that this would be an ease into the transition, particularly for classroom staff to start doing it now. And then they're ready to go already for next school year. We still have a lot to figure out with school districts around a lot of these things in particular, but we do know that this is likely going to be the standard for the future. So it will be. So yes, get started. What's the next one?
Okay. So the next question is from Alicia Brender, and it's
Second part of Mary's question.
it was about if they needed to
The timing of the OS, how recent do the OSCI
need to be.
How
recent is their OSCI fingerprinting?
So this is the thing on the exception. So what this is likely going to look like, and that's a great question about the fingerprints from OSPI for the portable background check. So that's actually something I need to get back to you on, but from what I understand, we are going to, like we did last year to start with, we are going to accept the OSPI fingerprint check. It's the PBC that we're going to be asking you to complete, but I will get more information and get clear about that. Again, it's sort of, in talks this week. They're finalizing the proposal. So for now, I would say hopefully we'll have something for you by the end of the week.
All right.
Great.
Next
Any more
question.
questions?
Yes, we have several more. Do contractors have to complete the use of alternative curriculum form every year, or if it was approved and hasn't changed, are we okay?
Hi, everyone. This is Karen. And Alicia, once you've completed the form, if there are no changes, then it is not a form that you'll need to complete every year. It'll just be a one-time shot.
Great.
A couple more. Does the licensing requirement apply to ECEAP sites located within the school districts, or do our exemptions still apply?
So this is going to be for ECAP that is in school districts. So if you are in a school district or ESD setting, regardless of whether you're license exempt, the PBC would apply.
She's talking about getting a child care license. This is a question of
Oh, it is? So can you read it again, please?
Sure. Does the licensing requirement apply to ECAP sites located within school districts, or do our exemptions still apply?
So right now, your exemptions still apply. So that's part of what I was saying when I was talking about the PBC, the portable background check, that we have a lot of work to do as we move into an aligned set of standards. We have a lot of work to do in the next year to figure out where school districts will lie in all of this, because we know that we'll likely need to make some exceptions. We just don't know what that will look like yet. Great question, but no, for now you're still exempt from licensing.
Okay, so this one's from Esna Flanagan in regards to the curriculum approval form. What is the due date, and can you speak to the attached incentive? We are under the impression that the ruling from the Attorney General exempting, is this the same? Nope, this is a different question. Okay. What is the due date, and can you speak to the attached incentive?
Hey, Esna, this is Karen again, and the alternative curriculum form and documentation pieces, they're not posted on the website yet. So once they're going to be posted, then we'll be able to determine when the due date is. It's going to be sometime this fall.
Okay, so we've got one more question from Jackie Brock. We are under the impression that the ruling from the Attorney General exempting agencies like districts and ESDs that operate a full school day model is still in effect, and that we would not need to go through the process until the revised aligned standards and WACs go into effect in August of 2018.
That is correct.
That's correct, and if you have a site that ends up needing to complete licensing, then we're in the process of identifying that and notifying you and letting you know.
Okay. Well, I'll just, this is Justin again. I'll go back to that family support section, section 15, and we did add 15.2, contractors must identify a family support lead to attend mobility mentoring training in the spring of 2018. Go to the next slide. So for WA Compass, we did add a definition to section 2 definitions to define WA Compass. as the Washington State centralized database where Dell employees can document and monitor activities related to providers and contractors. And we also added that to Section 11, the Early Achievers Coaches. We added it in, let's see here, entering personal professional development data into activity log in Wells or Law Compass, as well as other sections to utilize Law Compass. In the treatment of assets, we did want to, I think from my, and if anyone wants to jump in, from my assumption, it was really to emphasize the need for Dell to obtain any title to a vehicle. The title shall reside with Dell, and that's the only change as far as I know for Section 38 with the GTC. Again, the number might be different, but it should be the treatment of assets section in your general terms and conditions. Next slide. So any questions about those three sections?
I don't see any yet, Justin.
Let's give it a minute.
Okay.
So we have one, and it's from Matthew Solomon. How about if the vehicle is joint funded?
That might be something that we need to, there's likely a threshold in that in terms of a percentage paid for by ECEAP funds. So let's check on that and we'll get back to you. Thanks, Matthew.
Yeah. Any questions? Okay, maybe we'll go to the next slide. So for any and all contracting questions or just general comments, please send them my way to justin.chan@dell.wa.gov. So if you have any sort of follow-up questions or you're more of a processor after this webinar, feel free to send me an email and I'll be sure to send it to the correct experts for the specific section that you have a question on. That's it.
Great, thanks, Justin. I would just say, I would add to that, as always, if you think to do it, it's always great to CC your assigned pre-K specialist to that, so they're kept in the loop on the things you're wondering about. All right, I think that does it. So yeah, we have a gift of time, which is great. So the only other thing I would just say, other than thanks for joining us, is that we have another webinar coming up on Thursday this week at 11 o'clock. It's scheduled for an hour. Kelsey Schaefer and Lindsay Lasher from our team will be going over the new operating budget template. That's an important deliverable, as you know, in your contract. So they will be taking you through that. We will be taking you through that. They'll be leading that. And so we look forward to seeing many of you there. I think that's it. Have a great rest of your day, everybody.